can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about Sins of Sinister, #1 by Kieran Gillen, Lucas Wernick, Jeffrey Shaw, Marco Cicchetto, Juan Jose Rip, David Baldian, Travel Foreman, Carlos Gomez, Federico Vicentini, David Lopez, Joshua Cassara, and Stefano Caselli. All right, so the main takeaway from this issue is that Sinister wins. That's it. That's the tweet. I don't really know what else to say here. Okay, so there is actually more to it than just that, but point of the matter is, as suspected, Sinister has snuck his DNA into every X gene sample on Krakoa. Anyone who has died since House of X has had their genetics infused with Sinister's DNA. No different than Xavier was, as was revealed in Immortal X-Men #10. And considering how many mutants have died and been resurrected since House of X, that means a lot of the core mutant population is a Sinister. Xavier, Emma Frost, Exodus, Hope Summers, Nightcrawler, Kate Pryde, Colossus, Sebastian Shaw, all of them have the red diamond. Even other characters like Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean, Synch, Domino, all of them are likely compromised as well, considering each of them, among others, have died more than once at least, especially since we know for a fact this has been going on since the suicide mission on Orchis base in House of X #4 and 5. The only ones so far not being manipulated by Mr. Sinister, you can bank on the character Cypher not having been manipulated by Sinister. That said, he is killed off pretty early on, and if he is brought back, will likely be under Sinister's control. We also know one of the more prominent characters who has not been taken over by Sinister is Storm, because she has yet to actually die this entire time. And ever since House of X, Storm has faced literal and actual death, dead in the eyes and not been killed. She's faced Tarn the Uncaring. She has faced insurmountable odds on multiple occasions, even taking on Vulcan solo dolo and with a little bit of help on a second bout and come out of it relatively unscathed. She has survived everything that's been thrown at her as of late, so she has no Sinister DNA anywhere within her. Because that's the catch. His DNA is only within the mutants who have been killed and brought back. If a mutant has not died during the course of House of X, it's safe to say that they're safe. Speaking of mutants who might not be safe, we know that the characters of Destiny and Mystique are not in on Sinister's plan. But their exclusion, to me at the very least, is strange because Mystique has died more than once, at least twice that we know of, both on the Orchis Forge in House of X #4 and on Krakoa when Xavier and Magneto killed her to wipe her memory that she had succeeded on her part of the mission so they wouldn't have to resurrect Destiny as part of the agreement. She likely has Sinister's DNA in her and could be taken over at any moment, but I'm thinking that Mystique's mutant gift to shapeshift has likely made her genetics incredibly malleable, which might make the inclusion of Sinister's DNA incredibly difficult for him to take her over, and it may have even been overwritten and undone even on a passive level. We have precedents for this even mentioned in this issue when Sinister brings up that Hope Summers was originally very difficult to take over because her X gene passively undid any genetic tampering without Hope ever even noticing it. Hence why she had to die and be brought back so the Sinister could take her over. He couldn't just inject her willy-nilly. And then there's Destiny, who, while she didn't die post House of X, she was dead prior to that event and was brought back during the events of Inferno. Now, that said, Sinister did have a hand in providing the DNA sample that would lead to Destiny's resurrection, so technically, I think Sinister could potentially take her over as well, but because Destiny is a mutant who can see the future, it's very likely she probably has foreseen this and may have in some way had any potential genetic tampering that was done by Mr. Sinister removed in secret. That is a possibility, but I am the type of guy who always believes in the method of Occam's razor. For those unfamiliar, Occam's razor dictates that the solution that has the least amount of moving parts or requires the least amount of things to happen to be correct is typically the correct solution. And in this case, this would actually require some extra moving parts, so maybe Sinisters is playing the waiting game on this one because of some of the conversations he and Destiny have had over the course of Kieran Gillen's Immortal X-Men. The fact that Destiny knows what Sinister is up to, and it has been hinted at that she is keenly aware of his processes. She knows how he's doing everything, and yet she hasn't told anyone, meaning that she's holding out hope that he's going to do the right thing somewhere in the end. And we'll talk more about this towards the end of this video. Now, while some of these wayward mutants that I have mentioned, with the exception of Cypher, who is now dead, the reason why these characters have been going along with the charade that I'm about to describe is largely because they didn't really know what was going on, maybe with the exception of Destiny and maybe Mystique. But eventually, because of some of the things that are going to come up in this issue, Storm is not going to be around for a lot of the issue, and I'll explain more about it as we get further in. But what I will definitely say is that the whole and entirety of this issue jumps around a lot. This issue takes place both in the present day, a year later, 5 years later, and even 10 years later and beyond. And eventually there will be issues that tie in with year 100 and year 1000. If you ever read House of X and Powers of 10, you very likely know what I'm talking about, but that event actually took place over the course of roughly 1,000 years. And we're going to be revisiting some of those moments from Powers of 10, and probably in very different ways, because those were alternate lives. We're going to be seeing all this presumably through the lens of a single lifetime. Throughout the course of this issue, we witness in just 1 year how the Quiet Council has manipulated public perception that Orchis are in fact not the good guys, as humanity was beginning to believe in the wake of Judgment Day. When Orchis threw in their lot with Mutant Kind and the rest of Earth's mightiest heroes, humanity believed that Orchis were in fact good people. But now, they have been led to believe that's not the case. And this was done by orchestrating an orbital strike by a weapon of Forge's design to have it appear that Orchis launched an orbital strike, killing the mutant island Krakoa. Now, this isn't actually true. Orchis didn't do this. The Quiet Council launched the attack against themselves. And the strike doesn't actually kill Krakoa, but renders the mutant island no better than a vegetable. In the medical sense, Krakoa is unable to speak, think, or do anything other than just exist. This is a bold chess move because thanks to the events of Judgment Day, select humans, mostly children who have died or will die of unstoppable circumstances, are now able to partake in the mutant resurrection protocols despite being human. These protocols that were originally only for mutants. This turns public opinion against Orchis, giving mutants all the reason to attack Orchis with impunity, even getting the Avengers on their side. And we learn very quickly that Orchis is no match for the combined might of Earth's mightiest heroes and the children of the Atom. They immediately wash Orchis in a matter of moments, destroying Nimrod and scattering what's left of the organization to the wind. And it's presumed that Moira might be dead, but I think it's safe to say she got away. This was a twofold attack though. While they've attacked themselves and blamed Orchis, Emma, during her psychic announcement of the attack, revealed that Krakoa has another way to back up humans so they may be resurrected. Sinister doesn't just want all of mutant kind to be sinister, he wants the entire world to be sinister. And to do that, they need to inject the entire human population, proclaiming that having an elective X gene would allow this, basically implanting X genes into normal humans no differently than what Sinister did to himself. And while I don't think this gives anyone any actual powers, what it does is that they're giving humanity a dormant X gene. It doesn't do anything, but it does allow them to be, quotey fingers, resurrected the way mutants are and backed up the way that mutants are, without anyone having to actually come in and do anything or being any kind of a voluntary process. This is something that can be done automatically regardless of whether the human wants to or not. And granted, if you went to go voluntarily get an X gene implanted in you, you likely would want that to happen, but I'm just putting that out there as an example. Now, the thing that I think is really surprising is that humanity just buys into it hook, line, and sinker. Because at the end of the day, the opportunity for all humans to be resurrected, not just a select few to be resurrected, is a huge opportunity. That means humanity can circumvent death. Who wouldn't want to jump on that? At least if you were the type of person that valued your own life and were afraid of death. Even the Avengers get in on this, Captain America being the first among them to take on the X gene, explaining why we saw all those solicits where we saw a quotey fingers Mr. Sinister version of Captain America. This was all part of Sinister's 5-year plan. Within just a year, people are already being injected with the X gene voluntarily. Daredevil ally and recent convert to the belief in the mutant human peace dream, Ben Urich, warns that even politicians and other people with money and power have been signing on for the X gene, not unlike we expected considering conversations that were had between Emma Frost and Ambassador Mengele in Immortal X-Men #4. Even normies like J. Jonah Jameson have been taken over, and within 10 years, the entire world is clamoring for the X gene, even knowing what it will do to them. They don't care anymore because they just want to live. And if you wonder why each and every one of these humans is so desperate, despite the fact that Foggy Nelson is warning everyone that this is a bad idea, here's why. They still have Earth's mightiest heroes to protect them, right? Wrong. In under 5 years, Krakoa had already infected the entirety of the Avengers, and when their genes turned sinister, they assassinated the president of the United States, giving the mutants free reign to kill them. They'd already infected Namor, who was already a mutant anyway. Emma had dosed him with a little something sinister while they were, doing things. And Namor killed Dr. Doom when Doom came to him seeking an ally against Krakoa. With them being old friends and all, it seemed like a smart move, but for his trouble, Doom has been replaced with a clone, one who still sings the same anti-Krakoan song and dance, but to the tune Krakoa plays for him, though a random Doom bot is said to be out there somewhere working with whatever is left of Orcus, and that's very likely a call to Mora. Even the plot thread of Uranos being a weapon for Arakko to use for 1 hour when they have need of it gets used, and sadly, in just 1 page, which this is probably one of the few instances where I'm like, I really wish they wouldn't have done that here. I wish they would have saved that for something down the road, but I kind of feel like Kieran Gillen is just getting us to the actual meal. He's skipping past the appetizers, going straight to the actual food that we came here to eat, and that was unfortunately not what we came here to eat. So I do hate that that was, kind of just thrown out there and, swept under the rug very quickly, but it makes sense. If Uranos could piece up an entire planet of mutants in under an hour, and honestly in 20 minutes with, 40 minutes to spare, I think it's safe to say he could wipe up the Eternals in roughly 1 page. But with that said, using him to wipe out the Eternals leaves him as the only Eternal left alive, presumably. Marvel's first family can't do anything either because the mutants dosed Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, and turned him back to a normal human and unleashed the sinister DNA within him and had him turn on his own friends and family, all the while turning them into things themselves and killing them as the starship that they were traveling in at the time slips off into the deep void of space. Even Asgard is destroyed by magic thanks to her gaining access to Surtur's Twilight Sword that caused her to grow kaiju size no differently than it did for Surtur himself, and kicking the home of Thor into the unknown cosmos. And Sebastian Shaw has taken over one of the many hell dimensions, brokering deals with all its demon inhabitants and getting a seat at the table of the infernal parliament alongside hitters like Dormammu, Shumagorath, and even Mephisto, granting mutant kind yet a new ally in their campaign for domination. And while for some this may seem strange, people tend to forget that mutant kind has a very intimate relationship with the realm of Limbo. So this isn't that far out of the spectrum of possibility, especially considering that in and around this time, Madeline Pryor would have been leader of Limbo. Now, we don't really get any idea of where she is in all this, but you can imagine with Sinister being who he is, it's very likely he may have gotten to her as well at some point. There's even a callback to Kieran Gillen's Eternals number 12, where Thanos had inadvertently triggered the failsafes of the machine that the Eternal Phastos had put in place to keep Thanos in check. These failsafes were activated during that issue. We can even see where Thanos is mutating rapidly, almost as if the deviant gene within him is rapidly growing and mutating to levels that would be considered excessive deviation, and Druig kicked him into the time stream. We see a moment here in this issue where Thanos is detected by the mutants and they shrink down Juggernaut to the size of a bullet thanks to the mutant Micromax, and Hope Summers, while borrowing the powers of Domino, shoots Juggernaut into the time stream through Thanos' skull, killing him for certain. Though this is very likely going to make it so that Thanos has an even higher probability of returning. Death is such a small thing for Thanos. He has already come back multiple times. This is just going to be more of a minor inconvenience for him than anything else. But what people should be concerned about is the fact that it's noted the mutants never once even attempted to retrieve Juggernaut. Now, you're also probably asking the question, well, Wanda did it once. Could she do it again? Could she wipe out mutant kind in just one single 3-word sentence? And the answer is no, she can't, because the mutants got to her first, very likely with the aid of the Hell Dimensions. But she is deleted. She hasn't even been sent to the gulag. She has been sent straight back to the main menu screen. She is dead, and there's nothing she can do to save the Earth from the children of the Sinister Atom. Speaking of the Sinister Atom, Sinister has reopened Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, but instead of using it to teach the next generation of mutants, he's using it to farm the first generation of chimeras, the very same chimeras we saw during the House of X event. This is where it all began. These here are the moments that are going to lead to characters like Rasputin 4 to come along. Beast, Namor, Magic now sit on the Quiet Council, replacing Storm, Mystique, and Destiny, who are in the wind now, as I mentioned earlier. And even 10 plus years later, with the destruction of Arakko, it being leveled into an asteroid belt, Storm is nowhere to be found, but has her face plastered on every billboard and building as wanted. And while we don't know if it's dead or alive, it's safe to assume that Sinister probably wants her dead. She's one of the only mutants who has been able to resist him thus far, and because Storm is such a galvanizing force, not just among the X-Men, but even for Arakko itself, it is safe to say that with everything that we have seen going on as of late, we know that she is still alive. We know that she is going to be leading the resistance against Sinister and everything else that he's attempting to do. And this is all thanks to the solicits revealing the Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants tie-in issues for this Sins of Sinister event. In the end, it seems like Sinister has won. He has gotten everything that he has ever wanted. With nearly the entirety of mutant kind now becoming Sinisters, humankind is literally following right behind them. They're no longer even hiding who they are, when originally Xavier, Emma, all the rest were hiding their red diamonds. Now they no longer feel they have to. Sinister should be happy, right? But remember, in House of X, during the Powers of 10 number 4 issue, Sinisters always have their own agendas. Sinisters are not a monolith. They all want something different. As we remember in that issue, the Sinister that Xavier and Magneto initially approached did not want to have anything to do with mutants because he believed that mutants were an abomination. This was a Sinister who had not yet infected himself, as he says, with the X gene. Also kind of seems like most of the Sinisters have not done so, in that the Sinister we have been dealing with this entire time is one of the only ones who has, if not the only one who has. So yeah, they all think differently, and that is no different here. Just because the entirety of the Quiet Council is now made up of Sinisters, it doesn't mean that they all think like him. Xavier still has his dream of humans and mutants living together in peace and prosperity, even if it means manipulating their minds to make it happen. Emma still wants to save the children, period, at all cost, full stop. Exodus is still a religious zealot, and Hope Summers is still the mutant messiah that everyone believes that she is, but now the difference is she truly believes it too, and being a mutant messiah means that she has to save everyone, even if it's from themselves. This was always bound to backfire against Sinister. Even if it were just Xavier that he infected, this would have happened. Xavier would have went into business for himself, and that is just the nature of being Sinister. And right now, Sinister does not like the way that this is all playing out. He misread the tea leaves on this one, and now he wants to go back to his secret lab, which just so happens to be under Moira's old secret lab on Muir Island, and he is going to his Moira clones so that he can kill one and completely reset the timeline, wipe the slate clean. Only there's one problem. Now, initially, I thought maybe they would introduce the plot thread of the Moiras that he is killing. Maybe he can only do it as many times as Moira was fated to do, but that's not the case because he's actually rebooted the timeline a bunch of times. But I feel like maybe somewhere down the road, Sinister would find some kind of a way to muck it all up, that somewhere down the road, maybe his Moiras would run out, and in a roundabout way, they kind of have. Because when he comes back to his Moira clone farm, they're all gone. Not dead, just not there. Someone got to them first. Now, initially, I thought maybe this might have been the Sinister Council going after them, them being Sinisters. They would know how Sinisters think and likely know things that he knows or assume to know things that he knows. So maybe they would be the ones who would have taken these Moiras away from him so he couldn't muck everything up. But a part of me wonders if maybe this was Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants who did this instead. Because technically, Destiny would know. She would know exactly what it is that he was thinking. She knows the future. She has seen all the various possibilities. And while she has definitely seen some scary stuff that Sinister could potentially get away with, she has been keeping tabs on Sinister this entire time. She knows the score, so technically it would make sense if Storm, Mystique, Destiny, whatever other survivors from Arakko that are left, wouldn't surprise me if they were the ones who came and took it. It would be the most poetic thing that could have happened, but I don't think Kieran Gillen is going to give that to us just yet, but who knows, maybe he will. Either way, I think this event is definitely surprising people in a lot of really cool and fun ways, because at the end of it all, we kind of expected everything to go one specific direction, and it's not really going that way. Some of the things we have seen in the solicits have already happened. They are things that have already come to pass. They were hints and teases at things we were going to see in this issue, and I think the biggest thing that a lot of people aren't going to expect here, and I think a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, is that while this is an event that is supposed to be like a spiritual successor to the Age of Apocalypse and is supposed to be entirely focused on Mr. Sinister, I think that he is not necessarily the sole villain in this, and I would even dare say he's very likely going to make a little bit of a turn here. I'm not saying he's going full-on babyface here, but I'm thinking that because of the nature of how he is stuck, trapped in this timeline, he can't go back and reset everything. He is now stuck having to live with the choices that he has made now. I think Sinister is going to wind up working with the good guys on this, even if it's reluctantly. And that's going both ways, because I'm pretty sure that Storm and the Brotherhood are going to be the core good guys here in all of this. And it wouldn't shock me if somewhere down the road, Sinister does do the right thing, as Destiny has been imploring him to do this entire time in Kieran Gillen's Immortal X-Men. Kieran Gillen has a very deep, strong love for the character of Mr. Sinister. He loves writing this character, and I think this, of all the things we've seen, especially over the course of all of the different X series since House of X, how there have been a lot of redemptive arcs. We've seen redemptive arcs for Madeline Pryor. We've seen redemptive arcs for the Shadow King. We've seen redemptive arcs for just about every character. Apocalypse, all of them have gotten some kind of a redemptive arc in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And it wouldn't shock me if Sinister somehow found his way into a redemptive arc, even if it was reluctantly. I'm not saying he's going to be redeemed in this, but I definitely think he is going to do something heroic before it is all said and done, even if it's self-serving. And I think that's going to be the thing that's probably going to surprise a lot of people down the stretch. I know some people are going to want me to talk about the Dominion stuff that happens in this, but I gotta admit, that was actually one of my least favorite parts of the House of X and Powers of 10 dynamic, even though it involved one of my favorite Marvel villain groups, the Phalanx. So I'm not going to talk about it here. I'm going to kind of wait a little bit, and then we'll just kind of see where it goes. But yeah, that was something that I was not a huge fan of during House of X. It was like the one thing about House of X that I actually didn't like. And while it seems like Kieran Gillen is calling back to it here, I feel like he's doing it in his own way. The whole idea of becoming a Dominion, I think he's trying to find a way to do it without actually doing it in a way that would attract the Phalanx. But that's all I can say about it at this point. Either way, we have 3 different series that are tying into this whole thing, and while technically they're not even really tie-ins, I don't even like calling them tie-ins, because it's not like we're getting Sins of Sinister 2, Sins of Sinister 3, Sins of Sinister 4. No, we're not not getting that per se. We're getting 3 separate series that are all going to act as the story for this. Those being the series Nightcrawlers, the Immoral X-Men, as well as Storm and the Brotherhood of Mutants. And then it'll all culminate with Sins of Sinister Dominion #1 being the finale. Each of those previous issues I mentioned are going to run 3 issues a pop. So over the course of like the next couple of months, we will finally know the truth about how all of this is going to end. But there's a lot to talk about this issue, and I'm not going to lie, this video is probably like over 30 minutes long right now by this point, and I feel like, yeah, I could literally be here all day talking about all the crazy stuff that I've seen in this book because there is so much. There's literally almost too much. Like, I literally sat here and pored over pages upon pages of notes that I took as I was just reading each and every page of this issue, and I was just seeing so many things. And I feel like I've talked about the majority of the things I want to talk about, but I feel like some of them is just, there's not really enough information to go on just yet, so I'm gonna kind of keep some of my thoughts to myself until maybe we get a couple more issues in. Anyway, enough about my woes. If you enjoyed this video and you want to really help me out, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube in 2023, and I can't do it without the help of you, Earth's mightiest subscribers of the present, and you who have yet to become Earth's mightiest subscribers, and hopefully soon in the future. Don't forget to do the YouTube thing, like and share, all that good stuff, and also let me know what you thought about Sins of Sinister #1. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.